Thank you very much, guys. Vanakkam. Thank you for having me here, Jivan. So last week we spoke about how we can use exponential technology and my experience at Singularity University at NASA back in 2011. And essentially today we're going to cover about kind of a spin-off from Singularity University, which is the OpenEXO movement, which is based on a book by Salim Ismail. So just a quick recap for those who were not here last week. And I believe there's a video available that Jivan can make available for last week's talk. So we go through the drudgery of life right now, right? You go to school, go to work, go to family, and then you die, right? And then depending on your belief, you might get reborn and do the same thing again. So essentially, I think it's a life without a purpose. And last week I spoke about ikigai, which is a Japanese word meaning the reason for being, the purpose. What is your purpose and what is your project or your company's purpose? Okay, not just a mission or an objective, but what is the bigger picture here, right? So, it's not enough to just have to do what you love. Obviously, what you love, should be also something that what the world needs, and also what skill sets you can attain to achieve that purpose, and you can be paid for it, either in digital currency or in cash, right? So how do you find your passion? I think I spoke very quickly last week about this. One is imagine when you were a kid, what do you like to do, right? I love taking apart all my electric motorized toys and remove the motors, and hence I studied as an electrical engineer and then a robotic engineer, and then became an investment banker at Wall Street. And then went to academia, where my area of expertise is actually in application of artificial neural networks in finance. The other thing is, imagine you're already a billionaire today. What would you want to do to change the world? And that's what you should actually be doing. How do you acquire the skills? You could basically go to traditional universities, where I was a professor at both this university and still at Griffith. I was an associate dean at Bond. One's private, one is public. Or you could go down the path of online education, which is what everybody is doing now with the COVID isolation policies. Or you could join a startup, or a combination of all this, right? It doesn't need, there's no one single pathway now. For example, Cisco, they do not actually hire their black ops team, their top level security team from universities anymore. They go to the Black Hat conference in Las Vegas and hire the hackers, because anything you learn in the university is at least 3 years old, and your iWatch is less than 2 years old. By the time you come out with your skill sets to program an iWatch, something else will have replaced it. What the world needs, you can look again at the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs of the United Nations. All the 193 countries in the world have agreed to achieve these goals by 2030. So really have a look at this and see what kind of goals that you can actually meet within your project. And we talk about, when a company is growing exponentially at 10 times or more, you cannot manage it from a hierarchical manner. You given KPIs that you don't know why you have to meet these KPIs, you don't know what the big picture is. And this is the problem we have with the current system, right? You have the manager at the top, and then everybody, at the bottom looking up, as you can read the small thing. And I have to black all this out because this was a slide that I had to present at the school. So there are new management style called holacracy, where it's a flat management style, where you see whether you meet the culture of a company. If you meet the culture, you're hired, and then they decide what you want to do. Valve is a company that owns Steam, one of the most successful gaming platform in the world. So basically, they have a handful of employees. If you meet their culture, they'll say, what do you want to do? And then assign you the job that you want to do. As long as your culture meets their culture. And as you know, we spoke last week about how Kodak had about 132,000 employees at its peak and went bankrupt in 2011. And the same year that Instagram, with only 13 employees, got acquired by Facebook. So that shows you that a small number of people can leverage on exponential technologies to essentially grow very quickly. right? So we're going from a world of scarcity to abundance. So in an age of abundance, if you've read Peter Diamandis' first book, Abundance, the Future is Better Than You Think, he talked about, you see the cover of the book is aluminum foil, right? Because aluminum was the most expensive metal in the world until we discovered um, a way to extract bauxite, aluminum from bauxite through electrolysis, because the melting point of aluminum is really high. So the pyramid on top of the Washington Monument is actually made of aluminum, not gold or platinum, because at that time, aluminum was the most expensive metal in the world, even though it's the fifth most abundant element on Earth, because extraction is difficult. But once you have the technology to extract it, the costs become negligible. And you can see now we just use and throw it away, right? So this abundance of creation of art, with all these new tools, energy, healthcare, energy is going down to zero, right? With solar and so on. Energy cost is going down to zero, and you can see the impact on oil prices. Healthcare, obviously, people are becoming more conscious of their own health. So personalized health is becoming a big thing now. And essentially you got the tools to manage your own health, and maybe one day even 3D print your medication or your vitamins that you need. And all kind of resources that we can actually count on right now. And last week we spoke about the five the 5Ds, right? When you digitize, now they call it the 6Ds. Digitize something, you disrupt it, you demonetize, and then essentially you democratize. It becomes cheaper and cheaper, and essentially until it's free, and then everybody has access to it. So the cost of newspaper, basically, I mean the newspapers revenue has been dropping like a rock because people can get a lot of news. But then on the other hand, now you got to worry about the fake news and so on. Music, same, the cost of music going down. And the LiDAR system that you have on Tesla and on the first Google car, self-driving car, some of this autonomous component now, the prices are dropping too, exponentially. I mean, this Comma.ai is going to ship at $1,000 driving add-on by the end of the year. So some of the technology is coming out, but the cost is coming down and making it abundant. So everybody can actually get a self-navigation car without having to buy a Tesla. So you digitize something, you dematerialize it, you disrupt, you demonetize, and then you democratize, right? Everybody has access to it. So businesses in the fourth industrial revolution, you guys can see it all there, the drones, the energy, AI, 3D printing, you name it, right? All this new tech is coming out to revolutionize and disrupt existing businesses. So Salim Ismail, the guy in this picture, wrote this book, I think about 5 years ago, Exponential Organization. Second edition is coming out soon. And this book basically talks about how to grow your business exponentially, and exponentially as defined by 10 times or more by any type of measure against your competitors. It doesn't have to be just profit. It could be impact. It could be revenue. It could be whatever you want to measure it against. And last year, this book came out, Exponential Transformation. So Salim and Francisco Palau was my classmate at Singularity University, wrote this. This is like a workbook on how to run an exercise, a sprint exercise, what we call it, to take your company through a process of growing exponentially. We have a branch of the OpenEXO community called EXO Works, but they charge anywhere from $300,000 to $2 million, and their clients are like HP and Procter & Gamble, Visa, and so on. This is a cheaper way. You buy the book and you can actually go through the exercises. And if you need people to help you, you can go to the OpenEXO community and just call out and basically hire people as you go if you want to do that. So I was a collaborator in this book. So basically I'm just one of the 200 collaborators from over 30 countries from all the continents. So in this book, they talk about companies that are growing 10 times or more, like Google, Airbnb, Netflix, Tesla, Waze, so on, right? Duolingo. And the attributes of it is essentially you have 10 attributes and the MTP, and I'm going to go through them. So what is the MTP? The MTP stands for a massive, which means an audaciously large goal, transform not just your business, but the whole industry. And the purpose should be noble so that people will actually, want to help you. So it inspires the community to form, helps attract and retain talent, and it orients the organizations toward external impact versus internal politics. And it focuses the organization during periods of regular rapid growth. So it's like a compass, right, to guide you. And I'll show you. So if the dreams of a company don't scare you, they're too small. That's what Richard Branson say, right? So you've got to be a really high aspirational purpose of the organization. And it should be global and therefore scalable, and should be guiding people from inside. So you can attract people to come. Then it's like an encapsulation of the culture of a company. Why would they join you? Because they want to achieve this purpose and have a positive impact in the world. So some example, right? A strong MTP is Google's organize the world's information. Regardless of whether you are a customer, a shareholder, or an employee of Google, you know what they stand for. Everything they do is about organizing the world's information. The Google Glass, the Google Car, search engine is to organize information. The TED Talks is idea worth spreading. Coca-Cola is open happiness. Singularity was impacting 1 billion people, right? So there's a whole bunch of different MTP. Now, a really poor one, which covers everything, but nobody remembers, like share the future of the internet by creating unprecedented value and opportunity for our customers, employee, investor. That's Cisco, right? It wouldn't be easier if they said like connecting the world, something like that. So, you guys know Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So now, you have purpose, you have a vision, you have a mission. At the top of it is the purpose that drives everything else. And now you obviously need Wi-Fi and battery. So my personal MTP is seek, share, and apply knowledge to progress humanity. So it's a guiding compass, right? Why am I doing this? Why am I taking 2 hours of my time doing this? Because it meets my MTP. So time is the only scarce resource we have today, right? Everything is abundant, as I told you. Technology has given us an exponential abundance of resources. But time is the only scarce resource we have today until we have a time machine. We don't have one yet, but when we have one, then it wouldn't matter. But at the moment, time is the only scarce resource, which is why I don't envy lawyers, consultants, doctors, and all that, where charges by the hour, right? Because how much can you charge an hour? You're selling your time. I would always pay for the time because you can't get back time. You can get back money, right? So then we come to the acronym called SKILL, right? So I said MTP plus skills of ideas. So the S stands for staff on demand. So anything that's not key to your business, this is how to create abundance, okay? Anything that's not key to your business, outsource it. Anything that's not core competency for your business, outsource it. So you have staff on tap, right? And Uber is a good example of staff on demand, right? Where basically they are enabling people, the drivers, to basically be on tap. When there's demand, then it gets fills up and they take a clip of that. Now the other thing, the C now is community and crowd. How do you turn a crowd, right? People that like what you're doing into a community that will support you. So it's very important to be able to build up this community, right? Some example like TEDx, local models. And then A is algorithm. How do you actually use computer programs, AI, and so on, machine learning to optimize and improve and automate the stuff that the processes in the business that you're currently doing. So an example is UPS, right? UPS is a delivery company. In America, when they deliver a package to the customer, it ensures that the car never have to make a turn against traffic. So it never have to make a left turn in America or a right turn in Australia, right? And by doing that, they save on fuel, they save, they save on resources, and they actually save on expenses. So L is leverage on asset. So how do you use other people's or what's available to you to get your project done. So don't go buy an office building because you need space. You know, you could use a cafe or whatever to do what you need to do and leverage it up. Another example is Square, right? You guys know about Square, where Jack Dorsey, the co-founder, spent less than I think less than 6 months, right? And basically, um, at a very low cost, managed to develop a prototype of the Square payment system for the Apple iPhone at the tech shop in San Francisco. 3D printed the whole component as opposed to in the old days of sending it off and spending a lot of money and time. The unfortunate part is tech shop business model wasn't all that great. It helped Square become a unicorn, but it itself actually went to receivership. So maybe the business model needs to be examined for tech shop. E is engagement. Okay, so this, remember the scale SCALE. So E is engagement. How do you engage with your customers and your stakeholders? See, nobody goes to McDonald's because they make the best burger in town, right? They manage to gamify it. They have a Monopoly collection set or whatever, Star Wars cards or whatever, and you basically go there not to just buy a burger, but they engage you. So how do you engage? You can gamify, for example, right? So that is an example of the McDonald's campaigns. And also Duolingo. I'm not sure you guys use Duolingo. You remember the capture guys? The capture guys, basically create this difficult to read letter or word from real manuscript text that humans probably can do better than machines. And you are actually helping them verify the word that is actually being written. Duolingo came out of that project to teach you a second language. And what they're actually doing is actually getting real documents that you, as you learn, help to translate for them. So Duolingo engages with people and, essentially gamified. You can see your scores and so on. So that is the skill side. Now we'll talk about ideas, right? So ideas is, if your business is growing at 10 times or more, how do you manage it? You cannot have the hierarchical system of management because you're growing at 10 times or more. There's no way that you can manage it like that. So we have an acronym called IDEAS. So I stand for interface. How does your customer interact with your business? Is it very high touch, like a real estate agent that's selling expensive property where they basically have to have a one-on-one interaction? Or are you like an iTunes platform? People can just go in and buy stuff and you can be sleeping at night and it's ka-ching, 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 making money for you, right? So what's your interface? Is it a platform, right? Sorry, the dashboard is missing. Sorry, so I is interface. So D is dashboard. I'm not sure why I don't have it here. Okay, but D is dashboard, and dashboard basically is a way to measure how well you're doing, because what you cannot measure, you cannot improve. So essentially, you need to make sure that the D here, that that the matrix that you have is essentially available for you to measure how well you're doing. And anything that's digitized, you can actually measure it. E is experimentation. Do you allow yourself or your colleagues to try out new things? Because if you don't let them try out new things and fail, because failure is a part of the learning process, right? As long as you fail fast and fail cheaply. So if you don't let yourself or your colleague experiment with new technology and stuff like that, a new tech comes in and disrupt your existing business, then your entire business is gone. This is why it's very important for you to be able to try out new things and allow experimentation in your business. So build, measure, and learn, right? So, so you can see, like, you test the cars, no business plan survive his first contact with customers. So that's what Steve Blank, the guy who, taught Eric Ries, who wrote the Lean Startup, and then the business model canvas, right? So yeah, some of the books that you might want to read about experimentation, the Lean Startup, the startup owner's manual. And then A is autonomy. Do you allow yourself or your employees, sorry, do you allow your employees to get the job done, or are you a control freak? Everything has to come through you. If that's the case, and you are the bottleneck, you can't grow exponentially, all right? So, and the last one is the S is social technology. Do you use Trello, Asana, Discord, Slack to basically communicate with your organization and all your stakeholders? So that in a nutshell are the 10 attributes. And you don't need all 10 attributes. You just need at least 4 to be able to grow exponentially. So that is a nutshell here, as you can see. And yeah, I can, I did send some of these worksheets to Jivan, who's, I think, be happy to send to anybody who would like to have a closer look at it. So that's the EXO canvas, right? So the EXO canvas model looks like this. So you need to fill up, first of all, what is the MTP of your company? And then what are the resources, information that you have that you can use? And then basically that to generate abundance. And then you look at the attributes. Do you have stuff on demand, community and crowd, algorithms, leverage assets, engagement, and how would you implement it? Interface, dashboard, experimentation, autonomy, social technology. Like I say, you don't need all of them. You should have at least 4 to be able to grow exponentially. So you can, so basically the this is, I think, Airbnb, right? Airbnb's MTP is create a world where you can belong anywhere. The stuff on demand are the owners, the community and crowd, the travelers, the algorithm are the recommendations automatically generated based on your search, leverage assets using people's private places, engagement, that basically they use a scoring system, right? The interface is a search engine. It's quite simple to use. It's a web search platform or an app. The dashboard, real-time matrix. So essentially telling you, which apartments are being rented out and so on. Lean startup, they try out, they try different things, right? They experimented a lot, and then it doesn't work, they throw it away. If it works, they put it into as a new feature. Freedom for owners. And basically, they use some social technology and so on. So yeah, that's the new version of the book. The book I showed you earlier was white in color, right? That book is now a rare edition because the original publishers that published the book was not Exponential in their outlook. They ran out of books to sell. So they had to get Wiley's to publish the new one, which is actually black in color. So this book, as I said, has got it's like a workbook. So it's very easy to follow. Tells you how to find your MTP and so on. Each week, I think it's a 12-week or 10-week sprint. Each week is one chapter, essentially, for you and your colleagues to work on to achieve the AXO goals. So the book, the ingredient is in the Exponential Organization book, and the Exponential Transformation is like a recipe book on how to actually implement it. So the Open EXO, I invite all of you to join the community. I think we're over 3,000 now. It's free to join as a foundation member. If you want to get accredited and become a coach or a consultant, you got to take some of the courses and get accredited, which then allows you to charge in the Open EXO marketplace. So if somebody wants an expert in solar and you are a solar expert, but they also want to coach them through the process, you can actually put how much you want to charge for it, and you get hired off on the marketplace. So I highly encourage you guys to go to openexo.com and join it. I am their global ambassador, one of the 3 global ambassadors, and also a board advisor, and also an investor actually in the Open EXO movement. And tomorrow we're actually having the start of the EXO World Summit. I highly encourage you guys to join. I think if you go to the EXO World Live or get a link from me, I think you get like $200. I think, well, yeah, unfortunately you have to pay for this one. I think it's $200 and something, $297 or something. But you will have like 3 days of interactive session, and I'm running one of the sessions on the last day on one of the projects I'll be showing you now called Epic. So the EXO canvas, you can understand your MTP, discover the attributes, and develop your strategy to become an EXO. So open your eyes and transform the world for a better future. My contact details are there. So now I'm going to talk about the projects I'm working on and how I apply the EXO concepts to it. So I've tried different things, right? I've met Steve Wozniak at Singularity. I met Sir Tim Berners-Lee, the guy who invented the World Wide Web. He didn't like the shirt I was wearing, right? The Chrome shirt, as you know. He, invented the World Wide Web, and he's a big supporter of Mozilla. And he didn't like Google Chrome, and asked me if I had another shirt. I said, sorry, that's the only thing I had. So that's why he wasn't very happy. Try cooking skills, and that is the guy on the far right, on my right, is the last mile dancer. He's like 50 plus, and he can still do ballet. It's amazing, but ballet is not for me. There's Michio Kaku, famous astrophysicist, amazing guy. That's Jack Andraka, who I talked about last week, 15-year-old boy who basically was very passionate about finding a way to test for pancreatic cancer, which the technology has been 30 years old and has been no advancement. He used some nanotubes and managed to get a test that was 600 times faster and 128 times cheaper than existing technology. And that's Salim, and that's my son actually at Exponential Medicine in San Diego, which I highly encourage you guys to go every year in November. So I was working on this project, right? Because, when you look at the 17 SDGs, I think the biggest one to me is poverty, right? If you don't eliminate poverty, health, education, everything else is also important, can't really be solved. So this is the problem we have in the world right now, right? Look at this cartoon, right? Yes, the planet got destroyed, but for a beautiful moment, we created a lot of value for shareholders. Not for the world, but for shareholders, right? And this is what's wrong, I think, with the world right now. I mentioned to you last week about the, like even in Australia, where we have a private insurance company that was owned by the government, Medibank, and then about 5 years ago decided to sell it. So Medibank used to benefit, any profits it make goes to the members, right? Benefit the members. But what happened was when the government sold it, they now answer to the shareholders who might not be members. And therefore, their main objective is to create value, make profit, and not really benefit the members, only as far as how much profit they can make out of getting a new client. So we created EPIC, which stands for Exponential Positive Impact Capital. And our MTP is democratizing investments on both ends, both the investor and the investee companies. And I'll explain to you, it's a revenue sharing model. I talk about the benefits to the investors and the benefit to startups and investee companies. So why am I doing this? Well, I think most of you who are doing startup do know that, when you go and talk to a potential investor and you say that my valuation for my company is 10 million US, straight away the investor said, oh, I don't think it's worth that much. I think it's worth 500,000. Then there's no deal, right? Because you have to, negotiate on a valuation, which is nobody knows what the real valuation is. So that's a problem, right? So we remove that because when we invest and take a revenue share, we don't care about the valuation of your company. And I'll talk more about it in a second. And the goals are misaligned, right? If I put on my investor hat or VC hat, so I'm the co-founder of the first angel investment group in Australia, the Gold Coast Angels. And essentially, if you think about it, right? If I put on my angel investment hat, I invested in your company at a certain value, let's say $1 a share. I am already thinking about, how much can I get out of it? I'm not even thinking about what you're trying to do to change the world, make it better and grow into an exponential company. I'm just looking for the next guy that's going to willing to pay me, and I'm out of it. I'm not, my goals are not aligned with yours. Also, I have to worry about every single cent that you spend, essentially what you do with my investment until you pay a dividend or you essentially IPO or sell out. Right? If you don't do anything and pay yourself salary all along, but you don't pay the investor, I'm stuck with you. So every penny you spend, why you're hiring your brother, why you're hiring your sister, why you're buying the Lamborghini, I'm concerned about everything. If I take a cut of the revenue, I don't care what you do at the bottom. Also, if I put on my my investor, had. I want you to pay more tax. Why? Because when you pay more tax, the valuation of your company goes up, which is not what you want to do as a startup. And then trust, right? This is the thing that I was saying about it, right? Now, why are you doing the things you're doing? Why are you hiring your brother? Actually, he's a very good programmer, for example. But I have all my suspicions all the time. I as an investor, I don't want to do that. So what a benefit to the investor? I mitigate my risk. What do I mean by that? Because I get my money back sooner. I don't have to wait for you to IPO or pay me a dividend. Every dollar you make, instead of taking 10% of your company, I take 10% of your revenue. Now, if you're an EXO company, your margins are going to be very high, right? A digital company, 90%, 100%. So giving away 10% means your cost went up by 10%, which is nothing to you. And I'm not taking any shares in your company. I'm not diluting you. And you have the freedom to run the company the way you want to do it. And also, I might be an investor that want to do good. So in Epic Hub, we actually invest in company that meets 3 criteria, right? First of all, obviously, you got to be near or at revenue. Second, you got to meet one or more of the United Nations SDG. You got to make sure you're doing good. And thirdly, you've got to have high margins or growing exponentially. So this way, my goals, my long-term goal aligns with the company, right? And the benefit to the startup, there's no dilution of equity, right? So you're not giving away any shares. The management has freedom, right, to run the company the way they deem fit. And there's a goal alignment with the investors, right? So we are not looking for unicorns, right? Because they don't exist. And also, if the problem with the VC model right now is they're looking for a 20 times return. Why? Because they're greedy? No. Angel investors looking at 15 times return. It's because out of the 15 investment, they might only have one big hit, and they need that hit to be a unicorn to make up for all the losses they've made. That's why it's statistically it's a number game, right? So we're not looking for a unicorn. We don't care if your addressable market is less than $1 billion, that you'll not be a unicorn, as long as you're profitable and you're sustainable and you can grow, right? We're looking for zebras, but they exist. Okay, so the 3 criteria again: you got to be near or at revenue. You got to meet one or more of the United Nations SDGs. And you got to be either EXO certified, meaning that your company has in an EXO canvas model have at least 4 of those attributes, and or have high margins of at least over 30%. An example of, and one reason why I'm doing this is because one of the examples that I did, or one of the companies I invested in, the Forest, I don't know where you play computer games. So the Forest I invested in 2014, and essentially, sorry, 2013. And they only launched in June 2014. They were like 18 months overdue and running out of money. And, it was about a plane crash and they got to survive these mutants on an island. By the way, I don't play the game. And then, we had a con call with them, and they were telling me, Clarence, we're going to, there are 2 Australians and their partners living in Vancouver, and they were going to the Canadian Rockies to 3D scan the rocks. They haven't had the game engine play, finalized yet, and they were out there scanning rocks. I'm like, what are you doing? They said, oh, this game will have the most realistic looking rocks in any game. I said, who cares about that? And I guess I was wrong, because when they launched on June 2014, which was the week the Malaysian airline disappeared, and this game is about a plane crash and you got to survive mutants on this island. They sold over $2 million overnight. And the deal was that we were going to get 100% of the first, let's say we put in 100 grand, the first 100 grand they make, we take it back. The next 100 grand they make, we take 50%. And after that, we take 15% or something like that, right? So incentivize them to improve the game and the sales. They get more of it later down the track, but we mitigate our risk by getting our money back first. So we got our money back the first day with many times return, the first night itself, right? And right now, this is what, 2014 is 2020 now, right? 6 years now. And last month, my return on this project, I didn't invest in the company, I invested in the game project, was 100% per month, at least 25 to 125% per month for the last 6 years. So that brings me to my next project, which is basically a project for personal mobility transportation. So my friend that Jeevan had met, Chess Rubin, who was the ex-head of Lehman Brothers. I met him at when we both were at Citibank, when I was an intern at Citibank in Hong Kong over 30 years ago. He had this beggar who lost his leg and made a small plank to push himself around, a Cambodian farmer who lost his leg to a mine. So we are making this hoverboard because I noticed that these hoverboards are being used in China for enterprise. So essentially, we gave him a hoverboard, but if you don't have a leg, it's still very difficult to balance, right? So then, this is Jeevan trying out one of our prototype boards. As you can see.
Look at that, less than 1 minute and he is riding a hoverboard. Wow.
Oh man, I wish he wouldn't play that video.
And look, this is like, a day after, and it's improved dramatically.
Wow. I want one of those attached.
Do a trick. Oh, we're playing chicken.
Anyway, we decided to pivot because even though we had the board and we can remote control it and do all kind of amazing stuff, the problem is that the board was very, very difficult to use by a person that has mobility issues. So we decided that we would move the entire technology that we have on the board onto a wheelchair. And we came up with a company called GoGoTech, which essentially allow you to motorize a wheelchair. So I don't know whether you know, 50% of all donated wheelchairs are unused. Why? Because they're not motorized. And grandpa can only push grandma for so long. Who is going to push grandpa? And so essentially, people know that they need motorized wheelchair. The problem is they're very expensive, they're very heavy, and they are very, very short supply, right? Not easy to get. So existing wheelchair is about 12 kilos and costs about $120. A motorized wheelchair will cost you about $3,500 US and upwards and weigh like 90 kilos. So we came up with a solution called Abby, which basically have an MTP that's until everybody can walk. Then we don't need to exist anymore, right? That's our big MTP. It's really audaciously large. We know they're going to be exoskeleton, they're going to be technology to grow new limbs and so on, which is great. But until then, people still need a way to be able to be mobile. So we basically got a chair that I'll show you what it can do. You can remote control it. You can follow a line and so on. And these are the SDG goals that we mapped out that it meets, right? As education, because we can, if you think about it, a motorized smart wheelchair is nothing more than a programmable robot. So we want to open source it, and my dream is that a grandkid can program this wheelchair to take his grandparents, wheelchair to the bed, or fetch a grandfather a bottle of beer, whatever, right? Create decent work and economic growth, reduce inequalities, obviously, because people who don't have mobility don't have the opportunity to do a lot of things. Sustainable cities, responsible consumption, and partnership for the goal. So this is me on the prototype of the chair a year and a half ago on the rooftop of Bangkok, going at a very high speed, over 14 kilometers an hour. Obviously, the final version is not going to be that fast. As you can see, we can go up an incline. This is the later later prototype of the chair, and you can summon it with your remote control, so it's hands-free. And we're going to make it affordable. It will cost less than $2,000 US, cheaper than an iPhone, cheaper than a new iPhone, right? And it can also you can also go for a walk, and it will basically follow within 2 meters from your partner. Person walking with you. 2 meters, you see, even then, before COVID, we already knew that, it should be 2 meters away. And then we found out for a few dollars more, we can put a small little line sensing sensor and just use a tape, and essentially you will follow it. So imagine holding a baby in the airport, a cheap solution like that, essentially could be done. Sometimes. And this is our latest prototype. This is our CEO, John. Small steps. See, you can't go up steps, right? Even small step like that with a normal motorized wheelchair. So we are working on this hydraulics now. that essentially let you go over the chair and get over it. So that's, in essence, is the presentation for today. And yeah, as Jivan said, I'd like to hear what your MTPs are. So your action points are join the community. Highly encourage you guys to join. And those of you who can, please attend the EXO World Digital Summit. And I'll be talking about Epic Hub on the last day and final second last session, I think.